And happy Wednesday to the world out there. Special shout out early to the one and only Birdfinger chiming in on Twitch. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. I don't know if it's good evening. Kind of crazy stuff been happening in the world. Halloween happened last week. I'm still recovering, I think. We had a game. There's some election thing that happened the other day too. So depending on where you lean, you may be a little bit happier. If you're a Seahawks fan, maybe not so happy with the results of the game. Kind of like me, feeling weird.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
All right.
But I'm Sam. With me as always is Zeb and Ross. Gentlemen, how's it going today?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
You know, I don't know what it is, but I'm not doing so great. So I'm glad that you're doing well, because I want that energy. I hope you pass it through us through these internet stream, and we carry it through the home stretch today.
What's bringing you down, Sammy?
I don't know. I think it's just everything. I had a busy weekend. Then you had the Seahawks game. Wasn't a good game based upon how the end. I rewatched the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, and there's so many things that were just poorly executed. Bad penalties, bad offensive scheme, bad execution. I mean, if the Seahawks play maybe 15% better, they win that game. Russell doesn't throw a pick six. They catch all the throws in the end zone the first time around instead of having to catch up. Just everything was off, and I kind of feel maybe that rubbed off on me, and now I'm feeling off this week. I'm not sure.
Well, there's a lot of positive things to look forward to, Sam, and I think that's probably what you should focus on, not the negatives of the past.
And that's it's funny you mention that, because normally I'm not a very pessimistic kind of person. I'm definitely more of a half glass kind of full, but I definitely think that the game, it didn't help. I think I'm to the point where I don't let games influencing me that long. Maybe for a day or half day for sure, but not 3 days later. So I don't think it's just that. I think I'm maybe just mentally fatigued.
It's autumn. It's the dead season.
You know what it is? You know what? I've decided what it is. It's daylight savings time. That's what's messing me up.
Yep.
That's what it is.
That'll do it.
So any state that has not gotten rid of daylight savings, kudos to you.
Not gotten rid of it,
Gotten rid of it.
Didn't California, part of California, just vote to get rid of it or something?
If they did, it's going to be crazy because it's a big state.
Well, the theory is that if they do that, and I think that's where they voted, I think that people were saying that Oregon and Washington may have to follow suit. Or will follow suit.
Yeah, we pretty much got to do what they do, right?
I'd be down.
Yeah,
you'd have a weird time difference between the West Coast and the East Coast, which is already 3 hours, and then you'd have a stretch where it's 4 hour time difference.
Arizona doesn't do it, so I mean,
yeah. They don't care.
I'm in Japan. We don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't make a lot of sense.
Do time zones. China doesn't do time zones.
All of China is one time zone.
5 o'clock in China.
Look it up. It's weird. It's bizarre.
The entire country is all in the same time. That's insane.
Yes, they're all on Beijing time, even though that country is wider than the U.S. It's ridiculous.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. So, compared to that, daylight savings time,
Well,
I guess you get used to it though, no matter what, right?
Yeah, I mean, well,
I get annoyed the second half of the football season because now games, instead of being at 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, are at 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. That doesn't sound like a big difference, but it really is.
Yeah. Well, we know you. You stay up all the way through the night anyway, regardless of what you think you're going to do. So.
Right, but it's harder the second half of the season. I absolutely hate it.
Oh, I'm for sure. I know you hate it. I'm just saying, you power through and you do it, because.
When the fourth quarter happens at 8 o'clock in the morning and you haven't slept, it's just good luck remembering that. Right. That's why I have to watch the game again and again.
Well, anyway. We are the Seahawks FanTable Podcast. The Seahawks return to Seattle for only the third time this season, but find themselves 1-2 at home on the year. A game filled with mistakes and errors resulted in a one-score game, with the Seahawks on the doorstep of tying the game with a touchdown and 2-point conversion. Injuries starting to mount throughout the game, and it showed in obvious ways and in some not-so-obvious ways. The Seahawks will be traveling to LA to face the Rams, as they are a double-digit underdog for the first time in the Russell Wilson era. DJ Fluker, Chris Carson, Bradley McDougald, all questionable to start as they face the Rams. This is the Seahawks FanTable Podcast, brought to you by the Hawkscast Forum. Gentlemen, what was your take on that game? I mean, you heard from me, but what about you? Ross, you were at that game. I got to watch most of that game with you. Zeb, you watched the game at home. What did you think about that game? Zeb, maybe get your take first, because you got to watch this with replay, with the TV, with the close-ups. What was your take watching that game?
It was pretty ugly. I mean, it was, first of all, disappointing that the team didn't really feel up, to be back at home. The first home game since we lost Paul Allen. Like, you kind of would have thought emotions would be high and this team would be fired up. And it just didn't. Things just from the start were not. I mean, okay, right at the first drive was amazing, right? And then everything after that was like, what? Why? Why is this happening? Why is it like this? And yeah, it was disappointing, and it was sloppy, and like that pick six never should have happened. They were just gashing us run after run, and of course at the end, all of a sudden we can move the ball and we can score, and it's just too little, too late. Especially at a point where this team has had an upward trajectory the past 5 or 6 weeks, and to come out and to fall flat and take 2 steps back, pretty disappointing.
Ross, what about you? I mean, I know you stuck it through that whole game, but like, what was your take watching from the stands, other than the annoyance of the sit down, up down, fight of the section that we were in?
That was bizarre. I'm just gonna comment on that real quick. If you had a game like bathroom limit 2 times, beer run twice, half time is one of them. You can't walk through the people in your aisle 10 times a game, literally. I've never stood up so many times in a game.
Not only that, they all took the long way to cross in front of Ross and I.
Bizarre. We're in seats 3 and 4 on the end of the aisle. To our right, 2 seats over is the aisle. There's people who are in seats like 21, 22. To their left, just 5 seats is like the aisle that way. But they kept coming towards us.
Why were they doing that?
I don't know. Well, 2 of them were just absolutely drunk out of their mind when the game started. And like, they were able to constantly have 2 beers and cups in their hands at all times. It was weird. I don't know where they were getting them from.
Well, the beer doesn't stop until the 4th quarter, so they were
right,
well liquored up beforehand.
But unless they had like a keg under their seat, I don't. How did they constantly? It was weird. I don't know. You have to have a little bit of courtesy. Like, we're paying for our seats.
I can't stand people that get hammered at a game. Like, a few beers, fine, but what are you doing?
Yeah,
loaded before the game even starts. Shout out.
Yeah, those are the weirdest people. The people who try to get drunk before the game. Like, why? I don't. Whatever. I'm not gonna.
You guys know Kilt Man or Kilt? What is his name? The Kilt guy.
No.
He's one of those super fans over there by Mr. and Mrs. Seahawk, and down there by the end zone. And I went to a game with Leif, Best Fight Story, and the Kilt guy was so drunk by the beginning of the game he didn't even get to his seat till it was almost halftime, and then he couldn't even pay attention or stand up straight. It was ridiculous. Sorry to put him on blast like that, but I had to.
Insane. All right, so Ross, what was your take on the game?
You're called out. Anyway, my take. I was driving up to the game and I was feeling confident, but I think I was sort of convincing myself to be confident because, we were on a little mini run. They're 4 out of 5. But the more I thought about it, I mean, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah.
Of Carson City.
The Los Angeles Chargers are a really, really, really good team. And if I had been told at the beginning of the game, hey, you know what, we're gonna lose, but it's gonna be a 1-score game. We're gonna be on the doorstep. I'd be like, wow, that sounds like I'll be frustrated, but I'll that's a reasonable outcome. I guess that's where I was at during the game. Like, I was mad. I mean, Sammy knows. He was sitting next to me. I was mad at certain things, and as the process goes on. But I can't say I was really that surprised, even though, like, we always called it for a victory for us. I mean, like, we don't like to say it, but we are rebuilding. We're better than we thought we were, but maybe we're not where we wanted to, or we wanted to believe we were last week. I don't know. Maybe we are. Maybe it's just a game. It's a small sample size. Sometimes stuff happens. But I mean, I was really frustrated during the game and just after, but it's taken me no time at all to make peace with them. Like, San Diego Chargers, like, I would not be surprised to see them in the Super Bowl this year. Would you? They're really good. They don't really have a lot of weaknesses.
I would. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make the playoffs, but I don't see them getting into the Super Bowl.
I'm like, I don't think they're the favorites to get there, but it wouldn't, like, absolutely shock you with it.
I think
they're balanced.
I think they're balanced, but I also think they're a really flawed team. I mean, you look at how they beat Seattle. They beat Seattle with essentially 5 big plays. 4 of them on offense and 1 defensive interception for a touchdown. Now, a lot of times that's all you need to beat a team, and, kudos for them. They took advantage of the situation. Seattle definitely made enough mistakes that helped them to succeed in a way that Seattle couldn't. But they're also
even the pick 6, though. I mean, like, that guy, that wasn't just like Russell blew it. Like, that's what it looked like at first, because it was like the pick 6 he threw earlier in the season. Like, watching it on the TV that time, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen? This just sort of felt like that. But later on, when I watched, like, I haven't watched the game overall yet in its entirety, but I watched a couple plays on the all 22, and they disguised the coverage pretty well. That guy wasn't, like, hanging out there just waiting to catch it. He made a break on the ball, and
yeah.
I mean, like you say, they only made 4 or 5 plays, but I would say that almost every single NFL game, even if it's a 2-score win, actually probably comes down to 4 or 5 plays.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. But the thing is, the plays that the Chargers made, a lot of them could easily be contained. Like that first they had a 3rd and 15. They were deep in their own end of the field, and all of a sudden, Tetra Thompson, for another time, gets caught flat-footed. It's a duck. I mean, it's not even a great throw, but busted coverage. They get behind. I think it's Shaquille Griffin. Gets behind Shaquille Griffin. Keenan Allen gets the ball and basically, like, just untouched, and just Tetrick is late, and then he happens to, like, fall down, and, like, it's a 55-yard gain. And the thing is, they did that play again, and this time Tetrick wasn't caught flat-footed. He wasn't looking in the backfield. He covered his position. He was a true free safety on that, and he covered that deep ball. So it's something that I feel that if they were just a little bit more present, they would have closed out on a lot of those games. Because that's the thing that I found really frustrating is Phillip Rivers didn't play an amazing game. I think he played well enough to win. Again, not to take away from what he is, but his best throw was that touchdown to the guy falling down. It looked like he caught it pretty much out of bounds, but he got his knees in. It was a touchdown. I mean, Ross and I, you and I were talking about that. We didn't have the benefit of a great replay angle, but it was a really quick turnaround. They didn't even take time to review it, and it was ready to go. That was his best play. I don't think any other play he had in the game was as good as that.
No, I mean he was only 50% on the day, and the Seahawks. And again, that's what's positive to me. I mean, even on that loss, Phillip Rivers did not have a typical Phillip Rivers day. There's a lot of room for hope, but some of it's experience, some of it's just getting there, some of it's raw talent that needs to a little bit more playing time. But like like you said, we could have easily stopped those plays, but that's the thing. The good teams, the really, really, really good teams, they do make those plays. And we didn't. And consistently didn't make it in that game. I mean, Bobby Wagner did not have a particularly good game. He was in the wrong gaps quite a bit. And T2 and Shaquille didn't have good communication very often. It was quite often. You could see, like, people are rolling over, or people are letting go or releasing when they shouldn't be releasing. I mean, it'll come. I'm just not that frustrated. I mean, like, I didn't. We're not a top tier team right now. I can handle it. I'm having fun, man. I'm really liking it. I like the fact that Carson goes out and Mike Davis comes in and he just runs really, really hard. Not as productive. He's never going to quite be like. I think Chris Carson's like a top 10 back if he can stay healthy. Top 5 maybe.
All right.
And Mike Davis isn't going to be there. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just saying, I'm not as frustrated as you. That's
All right. Well, that's good because that's a good segue into topic number one. So, Ross, I'm going to actually hit you off with this one first.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to get off this roller coaster of a team? Because this is a team that went 0-2, won 2 games, got to 2-2, lost to the Rams, went 2-3, won 2 more in a row, 4-3, and now has lost another game, and now we're at 4-4. That is the epitome of an up and down season. Do you want to get off?
No.
Rhetorical, obviously, but
Right. I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier this season. I forget exactly the subject, but I think I mentioned that more than like the second Super Bowl season, even I liked the 2012 or the 2011 season even. But like I liked watching the young people emerge, and I watched some of these people we thought weren't going to be anything amazing show that they are pretty good, and not knowing. I mean, of course, everybody likes to. I really, 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 really like win, of course, but there's something cool about this team and watching it like fight and fight and fight and play. Like you lose every total, lost 8 Hall of Famers or All Pro or whatever, this and that, Pro Bowlers. But you know what? Like they're in it. Like we lost to the Rams, but we played them tougher than most people. We're gonna get another shot at them this week. San Diego Chargers, they're now a 6-2 team. We're tied for second best record in the AFC, and they barely beat us. And that's with some pretty egregious mistakes that we don't normally make. So, no, I'm loving it. I get frustrated and mad because I want to win, but I'm enjoying it. I enjoy this much more than I enjoyed last year. We may end up with the same record, but this year's much more enjoyable to me.
Zeb, what about you?
I'm with Ross. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like some of my favorite moments and best memories as a Seahawks fan are from dire times, years where we had no shot or where you knew we were going to go 8-8 again, that sort of thing. So, I'm enjoying watching some of these young players and getting to know these guys, and then not knowing what's going to happen, but knowing that we have a shot. You know what I mean? Knowing that they're going to go out there and they're going to try their hardest, give it their best, and sometimes we're going to come out on top, and sometimes we're not going to. But it's fun. I mean, that's sports, right? Nobody ever wins them all. Even the Patriots have down times and they have bad games. And that's what makes. If you knew what was going to happen every time, it'd be boring. So, it's ups and downs are rough, but it's part of the game. So I'm enjoying it myself fairly thoroughly.
Obviously, this is a rhetorical question. None of us would ever want to jump off of this roller coaster. I think to both of your credit, you guys are looking at this maybe the way that I would look at it, or I probably will look at it like as the week and as the season progresses. I think, again, I'm just feeling off this week. But I think what is really interesting about this team, and again, to both of your points, is that this team, this is not like the end. This is not who this team is going to be at the end of the year. Where they are at the end of the year could definitely be a 9-7 team, like you were saying, Ross. But the version of a 9-7 team that this team could be for 2019, they could be really great. Like, there are these building blocks that really, really would like help define who this team could be for the future. And with that, they could be a team that's all of a sudden a favorite again. And instead of this rebuild, retool, however you want to describe it, they're putting all of these strong pieces in place to really, really help them. For as down as people are, and as down as I've already talked about Tedrick Thompson or Shaquille Griffin, I mean, those guys look like they're going to be cornerstones of our secondary. Throw in the fact that Trey Flowers is playing in there. He's still playing at a really, really amazing level for a first-year corner. Bradley McDougald is an all-pro safety this year. He's playing out of his mind. I think that it was, to me, shocking to see how well the Seahawks played defensively in that second half, not giving any offensive points to the Chargers. That was amazing. And I was commenting to Ross during the game, like, oh, Delano Hill's in the game. Well, expect a couple of missed tackles. And Delano Hill played pretty solid. Like, there was no glaring tackling issues. There was no issues where he was caught out of position. That, I think, is a positive. That is the upswing of this team, but it is going to be the growing pains. Burnfinger on the Twitch chat chimes in and says, in 1985, Seahawks went win 2, lost 2 all season long. And that's potentially maybe what this team is. You know, they've got a really, really competitive stretch these next 3-4 games with really good teams that they're going to play, or potentially teams that they will be competing with for playoff positioning. And I would not count the Seahawks out in any of those games. That's not where they are at this point. They're definitely better than what I think any of us thought they ever could be in this kind of a year, losing all the players they have lost. But it is exciting. It is a fun season because they are doing so many things that I don't think anyone really anticipated, and that's refreshing to see. It's not the same issues that we're seeing again and again. Yeah, they're not perfect, but it is an enjoyable football, even with the mistakes that were really, really obvious in that Chargers game. Really quick before we move on, Zeb, you saw this on TV. I want to get your take. What was with the penalties? Were those like well warranted penalties? Because in the stands, it didn't look like it.
So I mean, there was definitely a few ticky tack calls that in kind of big moments. You know, I don't know. I hate getting on the bad calls and the refs screwed us and that kind of thing, even though it feels that way sometimes. But yeah, I feel like the officiating in this game was not very good. Hockley Jr. Maybe he needs to get some more time under his belt before he's out there changing the outcomes of games and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it was just another ugly part of an overall ugly game.
It didn't seem like it was a really particularly anti-Seahawks, though, did it? I mean, like, if it was anti-Seahawks, you wouldn't think they would have given him that pass interference in the end zone to give us a shot to win the game.
I don't think it was. I don't think there was any kind of purposeful anti one team or the other, but I think that 3 or 4 bad calls, went against us, whether it be penalties or weird instant replays that seemed like they should have been overturned yet weren't overturned, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought the biggest thing with the penalties was just like the sheer number. It was 22 of them.
Yeah, it was tons. They were flag happy.
Yeah, I mean, and like the NFL like wants to have this offensive game because everybody loves offense, because they also want a flowing game. It's going to hurt. It does hurt. I've started to notice this year more than anything that I'm annoyed by the penalties, like to the point I'm tempted to like turn off games, change the channel.
Yeah.
If I can't watch the game for more than 2 plays in a row without a penalty, that's a big problem.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
For sure. All right. Let's move on to topic number 2. Zeb, I'm going to hit you off with this first. Which Seahawks are getting your mid-season awards? So talking offensive, defensive, play of the season, MVP, coach, whatever awards you want to give out this year. What are you giving out? Who's getting hardware?
I think there's a lot of guys that I don't think there's any one guy standing out on offense or defense as the best player this season. But I did definitely want to give some credit to Tyler Lockett, who has really stepped up in a larger role this year. 6 touchdowns halfway through the season is nothing to scoff at, especially for a Seahawks wide receiver. The way we tend to spread the ball around and give touchdowns to third string tight ends and things like that. I think Tyler's done a really good job. On defense, there's a lot of guys again that have impressed me, not knowing what to expect. But I want to say, I guess the fact that Bobby Wagner continues to be as consistent as he is and leading this defense, I think he deserves a big shout out there. Play of the season, I'm going to go with Michael Dixon's run for first down. I thought long and hard about the play of the season. I really couldn't remember very many really spectacular plays. Not that there haven't been any, but just nothing that memorable. There was the one where Russell Wilson fumbled the snap and then ended up hitting David Moore in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. The one where I think this was in London, where Moore hit the wall and fell over to the other side of it.
Yeah.
That was a good play. But I think Michael Dixon's first down run gets the edge, especially because it makes people angry that he did it, even though it was successful. I guess that's just the troll in me.
Bird figure giving him Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. I think he's been, I think a lot of us had high, unreasonable expectations of him coming in and like doing something that's never been done before by a punter. But he's been absolutely solid and been able to flip the field for us very frequently. So, I think that's fair. Give him the rookie award.
Russ, what about
Russell? Russell gets my overall MVP.
All right. I think that's fair.
18 touchdowns, 1,800 yards halfway through the season. He's had some dumb plays in a couple of games where he was maybe not playing as up to par. But for the most part, he's spreading that ball around like we expect him to and making plays and just being consistent. So he gets my MVP award for the first half of the season.
Ross, who's getting your hardware this year? The Ross Awards.
The Ross Awards.
The Rossies.
The Rossies.
The first annual Rossies for best offensive player on a Pacific Northwest team. Man, it's hard. I think it's hard to say because it's a unit, but I think I'm going with Fluker.
Danny Jesus.
Danny Jesus.
I mean, like, if you're gonna say like one person sort of helped find the identity for the team and turn the running game around, and it's him, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to say because part of it's the chemistry. Like, it's hard to say because it's a unit, and you feel like Sweezy came in at just the same time, and he doesn't have the same physical imposition, so you don't see him as much. He doesn't have like the cool pancakes as much, but I mean, they came in at the same time, and they seem to have the same. So it's hard to say, but I guess I'm going to go slightly with the shallow optics and go with Fluker.
But Sweezy also played before Fluker did.
Didn't they start becoming the starters at the same time?
They initially Sweezy started at right guard until Fluker came in, and then he moved left once Fluker came back.
Right, like with Britt, the oversized center, with those three kind of like solidifying the middle. But I feel like Fluker is sort of like the spark plug there that makes it go. So I'm gonna go there. Defense player of the year of the half year in the first annual Rossies. This is hard. It's not super obvious, but I think I'm going to go with Shaquille because he's kind of taken over the Richard Sherman role. Had a couple picks, which I was actually worried about. He only ended up with one last year, and I was like, maybe that's always going to be his weakness. He can't play the ball. Hasn't had a bunch, but he's got a couple. And although he's not quite 100% a shutdown corner yet, still most of the time in most games, he's been able to, we haven't had to worry about him. We haven't had the letdown you kind of thought we were going to always have when Richard Sherman was gone, right? And so that's where I'm going. I will do a shout out to the other side with Trey Flowers because, again, he's avoiding being massively picked. I thought that was going to happen. I thought there was going to throw straight at him 12 times in a row. But he's not amazing yet, but he's solid over there. Play of the season. I think Zeb kind of said I haven't had there hasn't been a lot of oh wow eureka type moments this year for me this year. I think maybe I can't remember what game it was. Frank Clark had a nice strip sack, and for some reason about that particular one, up to that point I didn't think Frank Clark was going to be the guy we needed him to be this year, and I thought, he's going to check out mentally, or he's going to be dumb or something. But he's turned me around, and he had a strip sack that just blew right by the guy. The guy never had a chance, and I just kind of that's our defense is going to be good this year, I thought. And the overall MVP, man, I'm going to say, can I do this? Can I go the defensive coordinator?
Ken Norton Jr.?
Yeah. I know you're supposed to. I know you're looking for a player here.
He can be a most valuable coach.
look at all the pieces we've got, and a lot of people say like he's not a great coach, but I think I don't think he'd be a great head coach, and I think he knows that about himself. But as a defensive coordinator, getting the most out of our guys and like understanding what Pete Carroll wants to do with that defense and implementing it, I think he's put it together because our defense is playing much better than anybody really expected, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going with.
Totally.
Burner Finger chiming in saying, seriously though, Trey Flowers has been exceptional with what is expected of him. If the play of the season can be a bummer, it's Earl's injury officially ended the LOB. I'll actually go with my play of the season. My play of the season is Earl Thomas against the Cowboys. He had 2 amazing picks, and then he bowed at their bench. That's gangster. I don't know. That's the play of the season right there. They caps it off with flicking off the Seahawks sideline in the Arizona game 2 weeks later. So, whatever. That's my play of the season is Earl Thomas. And that's the thing that I think is kind of crazy to think about. We're 8 games through the year, and we're not really talking about the miss of Earl Thomas. So my defensive MVP right now, or my defensive award, my Rossi, it's going to go to Bradley McDougald. He's playing so much better than I ever thought he would. And I think that's what's really interesting is you can really give this award. You can really call this out to a lot of people on the defense. I initially was going to go with Frank Clark because he's having a monster year and we're going to have to pay him a ton of money. But I think Bradley McDougald, he has made it so that the loss of Earl Thomas is so much less noticeable than I thought possible. And when they were playing together, the team looked really stout, and it's sad that we don't have him. But Tetrick Thompson and Bradley McDougald, it's been a really solid combo. If Bradley's not going to be able to play this Sunday, Delano Hill surprised me with how he played the rest of that game. So maybe this is a chance for him to run. On offense, I have to give it to Chris Carson. Nothing against Mike Davis, but the running style of Chris Carson is it's so energizing. You look at the way the Seahawks were able to run 8 minutes off of the clock, just running the ball like 8 times, passing twice, and it was incompletion and I think a touchdown is all it was on that drive, but everything else was running plays. They gave it to every running back on that first drive, but Chris Carson is the quote-unquote straw that stirs the drink. His running style is so punishing, and I think that was highlighted in the way that he scored that touchdown against the Lions. He ran over like 2 guys to get into the end zone. He's my offensive Rossi for the year. If I'm going to give out an MVP for the entire team, I think I'm gonna follow Ross's cue, and I'm gonna give it to Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, what he's been able to do with this team with all the turnover to make them as competitive as they have been this year is nothing short of typical Pete, and I think that's one of the things you kind of get accustomed and kind of tune out how good and how great he's actually making this team play. So I want to give a shout out to Pete, who has never won a Coach of the Year, so this is my one chance to give him some hardware.
I just want to, real quick, just an honorable mention. Out of nowhere, for me anyway, Jaron Reed has 5 sacks from his defensive tackle position.
Yep.
I mean, that's elite for defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And he's not really getting recognized for it. Like, there's not a lot of chatter about it, right? But like 5 from the defensive tackle, like that's seriously is. That's pretty elite. Like,
yeah, he had that
Yeah,
sack to close out the Chargers' last drive. I mean, he just ate up everybody on that one.
Yeah, I mean, and nobody's talking about it. That's certainly Pro Bowl quality right there.
No,
So
for
we
real.
say we lost all these Pro Bowl players. Like at a half season, what are the new? Are there any people you think might go to the Pro Bowl this year? I think with Jaron Reed, Frank Clark, or at least, and obviously Bobby Wagner can go back. Anybody else?
Bradley McDougald deserves talk. I mean, he's played so good. I think it's going to be hard for them to get that credit because there is so much recognition that goes into it, and you have to really be a front-running team. Bobby's definitely going to get a chance. Frank Clark's definitely going to get a chance. Jaron Reed should definitely be in the conversation. So should Bradley McDougald.
I think McDougald won't get it just because what he does isn't as he's not as spectacular.
If he can get those interceptions and those turnovers to pick up again, he'll force himself into the conversation.
No, it's for sure. If he just plays like now, he's probably still already worth it. It's just that voters go by your ESPN highlights and whatever, so sports in the highlights. So
for sure. All right. Well, let's move on to the Hawkscast Corner. So this is topic number 3. So this is for Ross. We talked about it really briefly at the end of the podcast last week, so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it. So topic number 3, the Hawkscast Corner. You can find it on the forum at hawkscast.com. Michael Kendricks suspended 8 games. What is the NFL doing?
I suppose they think they're sending a message that they're getting tough on stuff. And it's easier for them to do it on this case, but it's also dumb. I mean, you've got all kinds of abuse out there and drug offenses and things like that. But the dude does insider trading, which, again, we can argue whether that's a victimless crime or not, but it's cheating. But it's hard to say exactly who's the victim. It's not like even other kinds of white-collar crime. I've talked about this briefly before. I think the society should be more strict on white-collar crime. But for the NFL to this isn't one of those things that kind of reflects on the NFL, in my opinion. Like when you've got a player out there who is known to beat his girlfriend / or wife or whatever, that really does reflect on the quality of the person inside the NFL. Or somebody out there multiple drug offenses, or gets stopped at 4 o'clock in the morning. Found asleep at the wheel of their car at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that really, really hurts the image of the NFL, and it really talks about who these people are. And you have to fight against the images as whatever the stereotype might be of thugs or bad people or over-aggressive testosterone-infused men or whatever. But dude, made the value of some pieces of paper go up. And so it's out of control and not necessary at all. But he's he's an easy target. Nobody cares about him. He's not a marquee player, really. So I guess you're not going to lose any ratings if he's not in a game, as opposed to back in the day Ray Rice or whatever. So I guess he's made the example of, I suppose, so that no other NFL players attempt to do insider trading. I don't know. I don't get it. It's weird. It's weird, right? This is one of those cases where I think that the normal law enforcement, whatever the punishment's going to be, is enough. If he goes to jail for next year for 2 or 3 years or whatever, he's going to lose 2 or 3 years off his career, but that'll probably be it for his career, right? And that's enough. That is enough. Not every penalty, not every violation has to additionally be accompanied by suspension, in my opinion. And this is one of those cases where it doesn't make enough sense. It doesn't make sense to, in my opinion. So, I don't really get it. I guess I get it, but I think it's well established that the NFL right now has a pretty pretty dysfunctional justice / pseudo court system, right? And that's something that should be addressed in the next CBA, in my opinion.
Zeb, what's the NFL doing?
I don't know, trying to fit into somebody else's britches. Apparently, I don't have much to add to what Ross said, because he knows more about this kind of stuff than I do. I just think I don't know exactly what Michael Kendricks did, and I don't know exactly how much, if he made money, how much extra money he made. But I feel like in the realm of white collar crime, what he did is probably pretty low on the scale of what's bad, right? There's probably people out there doing something as bad as he did on a daily basis. Sometimes they're caught, sometimes they're not, but I don't see any reason why it's the NFL's job to involve themselves in it. It's silly. Like Ross said, let him pay for it the way he's going to. There's no reason to add insult to injury in this case. And that's, even if he wasn't on the Seahawks, I would feel the same way about it. You know what I mean? It's just, it seems silly to me. There's people out there scamming people for billions of dollars. I don't know what did he do? We even know what he got? What did he make?
I think I read it was something like $250,000.
No, he turned quite a bit more money into that. He started with about $80K. and turned it into like $1 point something million. So he turned into a lot of money. But like you were saying, Ross,
he's also going to pay that back.
Yeah, he ended up paying all of that money back. And for those of you that don't know, Michael Kendricks, he's getting charged. He's been charged, but he hasn't been sentenced. So insider trading
he pled guilty. So
he's guilty. So there's not going to be a long trial. He's waiting for whatever punishment. It's going to be actually pretty minimal. Martha Stewart got locked away for the same thing, except she got in trouble for lying about it, not the actual insider trading. What it is you get tips about stock that's going to increase in price or lower in price, so you can buy or sell it to maximize profits. And that's what he essentially did. His standpoint is that he didn't realize that was anything bad. He thought that's just how it worked. Like if someone tells you,
that's excuses.
That's the excuse.
That's where I would be on it.
But that's what he's saying is, no, they told me I should do these things, so I did it. He didn't understand. He says he didn't understand ramification. Whether that's something that you're willing to accept or not, it wasn't allowed through whatever stock commissions are. I think it's FTC or whatever. But that's what it is. My whole issue with the whole Michael Kendricks thing is the fact that he was suspended indefinitely first. They couldn't even bother to give him a punishment. So they let him play for Seattle for 3 games, and then they said, we don't want you playing games because people are going to talk about you. It's going to make us look bad. So we're just going to suspend you indefinitely and then not give you an actual sentence. So his punishment is equal to people that have failed a second performance-enhancing drug test, or they failed their third substance abuse, so either drinking or drugs. That's essentially what an 8-game suspension is like. Birdfinger saying is, whoever is doling out the punishments hold money in higher regard than domestic violence. Shameful. And that's what you were saying earlier, Ross, is there's just no consistency. Going back to 2016, I looked at, and I posted this on the forum, hawkscast.com. If you look at the people that are suspended 8 games or more, all of them are failed drug tests. There's nothing about... Ray Rice is so far ago that he doesn't even show up on this list from 2016 and after. But he was a case where he was initially suspended for 2 games. A video of the incident came out. Then he got suspended indefinitely. And then he got reinstated. Same thing happened to Adrian Peterson. He was accused of something. They went, you're suspended indefinitely. Then they reduced the charge. And what it really shows is the NFL has no conviction. They really are not in a position where they're trying to help define. And maybe that's part of the CBA. Maybe they're just trying to keep people on their toes. But what it shows to me is the NFL is basically holding themselves to the whim of the most likely offended people. And what I mean by that is the people that will take the greatest offense to the smallest thing, that's who they seem to be catering towards. Because most fans of the NFL that I know don't care about this. I think they wish that the NFL was harder against when players were violent to other people or they hurt other people physically, emotionally. I think most NFL fans maybe have a harder time with that than they do with something like white collar crime. But maybe I'm projecting.
I mean, it's again, if it was other kinds of white collar crime, I'd be on board with this. If he did something that scammed people out of their 401ks or things like that, I'd be all over it. Suspend him indefinitely again, fine. But this isn't that. This is, again, this. It truly is. In some, the only thing that makes it illegal is that you're cheating. You have an unfair advantage over other people, and if that was consistent, always happening, then it plays around with the stock market system, which causes a collapse of the economy. But this isn't one of those other situations. Just because there's a winner doesn't mean anybody's actually a loser, unless you shorted the stock, I suppose. But if I have information that something's going to be bought, so I buy it, and then the value goes up, I've made some money for myself. Literally, nobody else lost money. So,
right.
Again, it's hard to explain why that is the equivalent of, or nearly the equivalent of, Brian Cushing's second failed PED test. Had, especially that dude, because he was clearly just doing sort of old-fashioned roids because he had so much rage. It was obvious. I don't know. It's just weird. It's very weird.
The fact that the Buffalo Bills have a negative 145-point differential is a much worse crime than anything Michael Kendricks did. What are we going to do, suspend the entire team for the rest of the season? I don't think so.
I think you just suspend their GM. I mean, they keep throwing Peterman out there. I don't know what they think they're doing.
They're losing every game by an average of 3 scores. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Fantasy tip.
Well, if those scores were
grab the defense that the Bills are playing against, and you will win your league.
Bingo.
Yeah. Final thoughts on Michael Kendricks?
That was my final thought.
Don't bend down to pick up the soap. I don't know.
Michael Kendricks, he's going to actually be able to return to practice in a couple weeks, and he'll be able to play in like 3 weeks. So his return, not that long now, based upon the fact that he's already missed 5 games. He only has 3 more games to miss, and he'll be able to return to playing in, I think, a week and a half. So
Did you watch Creed?
I did not watch Creed. I should. It's a Ryan Coogler movie.
Gotta watch Creed. Anyway, it sort of reminds me, like in Creed, like the final fight, Adonis Creed is fighting a guy who's about to go into prison. So it's sort of like his last chance to make sort of a nest egg for his kids. And I sort of see like this season for Michael Kendricks is sort of like that. He's just like out making he's spent all the money he's made up to now, and then he just needs a few games of money just to put away.
As many game checks as possible, yeah.
Yeah. So when he gets out of jail, he's got something.
Yeah.
I sort of see it like that.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, let's move on. Topic number 4. Topic number 4 for Zeb, the LA Rams. What is the Rams' fatal flaw, and can the Seahawks exploit it for a win?
You know what the Rams' fatal flaw is? The Rams' fatal flaw is the Seahawks. And we're going down to LA this weekend, and we're gonna cram bucket loads of artificial turf down their throats and beat them the way they deserve to be beat. And it's gonna be 2 losses in a row for them, and they're gonna whine and cry, and they're gonna finish the season at 9-7.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
That'd be awesome.
That's all I got for that.
Like if they don't win a game this season, that'd just be hilarious.
We're gonna break them.
Yeah. Well, maybe they were broken last week.
Well, we're going to add insult to injury then. We're going to kick them while they're down.
Do you think they have a flaw, though, Zeb?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think they got Todd Gurley, so they got probably the best running back in the league, and they can lean on him. They've got playmakers all over the place, so it's nothing for them to put up 30 to 40 points a game. But I think they're vulnerable on defense, even though they've assembled this super squad of top tier free agent players. I think it's shown that they can be scored on, and they can, we almost had them last time, and we were not that good at that point of the season. So, I think that we can score with them as long as we're on our game. It might be one of those whoever has the ball last wins, an old-fashioned shootout, and I think that we have the tools to hang with them.
Ross, what about you? What is the Rams' fatal flaw?
Man, Zeb inspired me. I mean, you know what? They gave up 45 points on Sunday, right?
Yep.
45. I mean, if you give up 45 points, you're obviously a flawed defense. I don't care what the excuse is. You're a hugely flawed defense. And it's even more spectacular because, as Zeb said, they've got sort of a who's who of Pro Bowls past on their D at every position. So something's obviously not clicking if you're giving up 45 points, but, 2 out of the 4 of your linemen are Hall of Famers, right? And you're just strong everywhere. But you can't stop anything. They especially can't stop the run. So I saw somebody saying we have to kind of track meet them, and we're gonna have to score 35 to win. But I think probably the better way to go is to just kind of stick with what we're good at, slow the game down, shorten the number of possessions, run the ball. You know, like they're pass rushers. They want to pass rush. If you run the ball right at them and let them, put them back on the heels so they're not in that pass rush mode, so open up some play action later and get it so that they can't just focus on the quarterback. And it's not as much fun either, right? When you're the defensive end and you make your money sacking the quarterback, it's not as fun to try to tackle Chris Carson or Mike Davis 20, 30 times a game. And it's tiring. So I think that's their Achilles heel, and I think he's got to hit it, keep it close, and then look for a chance to win at the end, cause them, Goff has only thrown 6 interceptions this season, but 2 of them were to us, right?
Yep. Tetrick Thompson and Bradley McDougald.
Yeah. So, put some pressure, throw them some looks they haven't seen. Hopefully that we've kind of held something in a little bit in reserve, and hope for the best, man. Keep it close and grab it at the end.
I'm going to steal from Birdfinger here and say the Rams' fatal flaw is DJ Fluker. So DJ, get healthy because you are the thing that will tilt in the Seahawks' favor, because the Rams' fatal flaw is really their defense. They're incredibly poor at rush defense, and their secondary is highly suspect. David Moore made Marcus Peters look like an average corner. They made him. It was embarrassing for Marcus Peters because he got beat on a simple double move, and it made for really, really simple touchdowns. But I think what will really help the Seahawks that they will need to exploit is they will need to control the ball, they will need to eat up a ton of clock, and they will need to run. It can't be a pass option as the way that they run the game, but they have to be able to always keep running that clock. One thing that I thought was really surprising from the Chargers game that the Seahawks just were not able to sustain was they opened the game with an 8-minute drive, and through that it looked like they were going to be in total control, and then the defense just played poorly. They were able to march down the field. That's what the Seahawks need to avoid. They need to be able to control the ball. They need to be able to make it so that they own time of possession. So that means running the ball. That means having a healthy Chris Carson, having a healthy DJ Fluker. And if they can continue to run at that quote-unquote stout defensive line with all these amazing players, it's going to be demoralizing. Because if you continue to run at Aaron Donald and you're running at Ndamukong Suh, and you're seeing success, you're running for 4 yards a clip, that's going to be tough, and that's going to open the game up for Russell Wilson. That's going to open up the game for those double moves and burn Marcus Peters. It's going to give the Seahawks a chance, and that's the fatal flaw that the Seahawks need to exploit. I don't know if that team's going to be available to do that just because they're running with some injuries, and one of the growing pains of this team is they're not that consistent yet. They haven't found that ability to do and dictate what they want to do week in and week out. But there's a chance because they've shown they can do it once, and if they can capture that again, then I think that gives them a really, really good opportunity.
It's going to be like a home game in LA too, by the way.
I think the one thing I'm really excited for is the fact that this is a home game. This is a game in LA in November as opposed to an LA game the first or second week in September. It's going to be warm, but it's not going to be insanely hot.
Right, and it's going to sound like CenturyLink down there. Watch, there's going to be so much blue and green in that stadium, it's going to be unbelievable.
They seem to have... Wait, is it... I'm getting confused. Is it the Rams or the Chargers that now seem to have a few fans in the stadium of their own?
So the Chargers play in Carson City in the StubHub Arena, which is like a soccer field, and that holds 30,000 people. The Rams play in the LA Coliseum, which has 70,000 people. But it's too huge of a stadium for the actual field that it's on because they use that field for track and field stuff. So it's a huge field, so the stands are not as close as other stadiums are.
Right, but one of them teams is actually attracting some fans, and one really isn't.
Oh, the Rams, I'm sure, because they're winning. But even still, that game against the Packers a couple weeks ago, Sounded like they were playing in Lambeau.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the Chargers game when they were playing Kansas City, and it was that's right. When the Chargers were playing Kansas City in Los Angeles, there was like a picture going around, and it was basically like a where's Waldo, like where's the San Diego Charger fan in this picture? It was a picture of the stands, and it was all Kansas City people. So.
Yeah, I think if you'd have taken a poll and asked LA which team don't you want coming to play, San Diego probably would have been towards the top of it.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, who's the MVP of that team? If you were to pick an MVP off the Rams, who would you say it is?
It's got to be Todd Gurley.
Gurley.
Guy's a monster. He's unbelievable.
I'm in the camp, and I'm in the camp that as good as Todd Gurley is, I give more credit to their coach, Sean McVay, because you look at what Todd Gurley was doing before Sean McVay, he'd put up okay numbers, but it's not the same clip as what he's doing right now. So I think
definitely the coach is what makes that team, of course.
Yeah.
If we're talking purely players, it's Gurley. If we're going to include coaches, McVay's mostly. That dude's. Yeah, he's.
Even if I had to pick a player, I would put Jared Goff over Gurley. And again, it's not to take away with what Gurley does, because his stats are obvious; they speak for themselves. But at some point, it's kind of like it seems too easy. Whereas I think Goff is, he's running that team to perfection. So I'm going to give a little bit more benefit to the quarterback than the running back.
That's usually the case, but in my opinion, I for this team I sort of disagree. Like if I take out Goff and I put in Dalton in there, I think they're doing nearly as well. If I take out Gurley and I put in Mike
Rashad Penny,
I don't think they're anywhere near where they are. I think they have to have him like as that threat and also like able to overcome. It's a really serious question of pick your poison trying to defend that offense. So, and
182 carries, 12 touchdowns, no fumbles. Like, come on.
Birdfinger chiming in and saying he think that missing Goff would be the preferable one. I have a hard time thinking that because I look at teams like the Bills and I look like Peterman and I look at how poorly he's playing and it really gives the team no chance.
Right, but he's below average. I saw a thing saying like the 3 lowest rated quarterbacks in the NFL this year are all on the Bills team.
Yeah, I'm just saying it seems like the running back. The running back seems like it's a lot easier to replace. You're not going to necessarily get the same level of production that you would if you swap out a Todd Gurley. I just kind of feel like it's not that he's replaceable, but he's more replaceable than the quarterback position. Just the way that defense runs.
I get that. I totally see that, but I just kind of disagree. I feel like again, football's hard compared to baseball, trying to figure out how everything's related. But
it's because they're not swappable pieces. It's all about the system and it's all about the rapport. I totally get you.
If I take out Gurley and I put in Mike Davis, who's like maybe a league average type, or Alex Collins, like a league average or slightly good running back, I think Goff goes down a lot because I think then teams don't have to worry about the run quite as much, and that's going to affect Goff's game as well. I think Goff's a fragile above average quarterback. I think I sort of like what people used to say about Russell Wilson, but I sort of buy it for him. Like if he doesn't have all the right weapons, I think he kind of quickly disintegrates.
Yeah. Birdfinger also saying Seahawks had a hard time replacing Lynch. I think people
we all remember that.
I think people take for granted how good a running back can be. So I think it's a good conversation to have, and that's why I think it will be very interesting. But when push comes to shove, I think what will happen, and again, this is not indicative of our conversation, what will happen is teams will always pick the quarterback over the running back, regardless of their impact to the team itself, because quarterbacks are a lot harder to replace in the way that people think about it comparative to the running back. So,
right.
So we're talking about a couple different things, so just not all about the same idea. But I think it will be very interesting, and I think they'll put the Rams in a very unique position because they already extended Gurley, so are they going to be able to extend Goff? We'll see. Hopefully they fuck it up and they spend the wrong money in the wrong place and it sets them back 20 years.
Yes.
Well, don't they have to already be not getting like when they allow 45 points? But you just re-signed Aaron Driver or whatever.
Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald, sorry, and Dominican Sue and he's obviously hurt now, but the Talib and I mean everything. I mean, like, dude, you spent a lot of money to build up that defense, and you're not getting anything for your bucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is that they're playing with the lead, so those guys can kind of coast, and I think that's the flaw of their team. It's there's not the sense of hunger or desire that I think you would see from a battle test team, which is why I don't think that come playoff time, they're not a team that I would peg as a favorite, regardless of what seeding they end up in the playoffs.
I'm also worried about how that team plays. Like, if they have to play outdoors at all in December, I'm a little bit worried. You know, not worried. I'm happy that it'd be sucky for them, but I don't think that. I don't know. They seem like to be a team that's sort of built for September.
Yeah, but the problem is they don't have the 1 seed right now. That's to the Saints. So if they have to travel, they're going to play in a dome. If they end up hosting a game, it's going to be in LA. LA weather is going to be pretty mild. They're not going to be anything crazy. So it's a ways away, but I think it'll be interesting come the season. All right. Well, let's move on. That was the last of our topics, so let's move on to our predictions. So I'm going to hit Ross with all the predictions first. So, Ross, what's your final prediction for the score? Seahawks versus Rams.
27-31 Rams.
Cat? Zeb?
Son of a... you know what? Last time we played them, we had the lead for most of the game. We had a lead in the fourth quarter. This time, I think we don't blow it, and I think it's going to be a very similar score. Maybe like a 34-31 or something like that.
Okay. I'm going to side a little bit with more Ross. I think the score is going to be a little bit lower, but I'm still going to give the edge to the Rams, unfortunately. I'm going to say it's like 33-30. That's not that low of a score, but it's the Rams.
No, I think I think we're kind of, we're kind of all in the same area as far as points go.
Yeah. Who's going to have more? Birdfinger says it's going to be 30-27 Seahawks. So he along with Zeb's predicting win, something I would be more than happy to be wrong about.
My dog.
Who's going to have more passing touchdowns, Russell Wilson or Jared Goff? Zeb. Or Ross. Sorry, Ross.
Goff. 4-3.
Zeb.
First name Russell, last name Wilson.
I'm going to say it's going to be Goff because I think in order for the Seahawks to do what they need to do, they need to run the ball a little bit more. So hopefully Chris Carson's healthy. Mike Davis gets a touchdown. Carson gets a touchdown. I think that's what they need to do. Birdfinger's got Wilson getting more touchdowns. Here's the interesting one. More receiving yards, Todd Gurley or a Seahawks wide receiver? Ross?
Seahawks wide receiver. I see Lockett going over 100. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a Seahawks wide receiver, one of them is gonna. I think Gurley's gonna get his yards, but I think probably more on the ground than through the air.
I think with KJ healthy and with Bobby hopefully playing at a continually high level, they will be able to kind of limit Gurley in the passing game. I'm going to give David Moore. David Moore is going to eclipse the 100-yard mark because he burned Marcus Peters. He's going to do it again.
That's the other one. Marcus Peters. Like, they paid a lot for him to be really good, too, and he sucks now, too.
Yeah. Are the Rams going to run a trick play, yes or no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure, yes.
Is it even a trick play anymore if it involves a punter, or we just say that's just like a semi-trick play? You just kind of expect it, don't you?
Anything where it's not the quarterback running the ball, or tossing the ball, I think that's a trick play.
I'm just saying. I mean, like, you know what I mean? I mean, like, a trick play is a trick play, but it's usually something that catches you off guard and you're surprised with it. Like, are we surprised anymore when, like, under, like, throws the ball?
Are we? No. Are the players on the field? Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm saying yes. Birdfinger's saying yes as well. Are the Seahawks going to run a trick play, though?
Yeah. I think they like to use them against the Rams as sort of like a revengey thing. I don't think it's on purpose. I just think when they're pulling up their own game plan, they're like conscious of it, and so it's kind of stuck in their minds because we tend to run more trick plays against them anyway. So I think it just kind of sticks in your mind, so they tend to call it themselves as well.
Yeah, Pete loves him. He'll do it.
Drop field goal. That's going to be the trick play
That would be tight.
for the Seahawks. Michael Dixon, Rookie of the Year. Over-under. The current over-under, according to Yahoo Sports, is 50 points. Are you guys going to go over? I am.
Oh, over. We're over.
Yeah, over.
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of obvious. Birdfinger's in agreement. All right, over-under rushing attempts, 25.5.
For us?
Yes, for the Seahawks.
Over.
Under.
For the Seahawks to have a chance, I think they have to rush more than 26 times, so I'm going to say over. Last one, over-under passing attempts, 25.5 for Russell Wilson.
Over.
I think if they want to win, not that they need to limit Russell Wilson, but they need to control the ball, so that means running a lot. Under. Birdfinger's with me.
I think in the second half they're going to have to throw a bit just to keep up.
If they're playing catch up, yeah, I think that's what it is. But I'm trying to think about what's the way that they're going to win versus what's going to happen. So we'll see.
I mean, you can play from behind, but still keep it reasonable, right?
I think that's what was interesting because even in that game against San Diego, they were still running the ball at a almost 1-to-1 clip versus the pass on those final drives, which is insane to think about.
We were kind of freaking out about it, but it actually worked out. If they had just, if Sweezy doesn't get that penalty, they were just about to run the ball into the touchdown and hopefully make the 2-point conversion go to overtime. But
yeah,
to do it. But I mean, it was funny because I was sitting there going go a little faster, but it was fine. It was totally fine.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone couldn't be panicking about the pace of play that the Seahawks are going at because it was almost too lackadaisical. But I also think that's maybe why the Seahawks weren't playing as crisp as I wanted them to because they just weren't set well. So, but that's our podcast, gentlemen. Shout outs, Zeb.
Shout out to Smoke. He got to go to the Seahawks practice today. He looks like he had a pretty good time out there. So shout out to him.
Nice. Ross, shout outs today?
I have shout outs. I have a shout out for the Adele Spa in Dubai. It has a comforting massage treatment, the Adele Spa. It affects the physiological condition of a person by adding up a great psychotherapeutic effect. So please visit the Adele Spa when you are in Dubai.
So that's not a bad place to go. I want to give a shout out to Mumbai, India. I was looking at the Hawkscast forum. I was looking at the people that are on the website, and Mumbai, while they don't write, they are representing as well. I can't find out which of these Mumbai people I want to shout out to, but there are a couple of them. There's one funny one that I'll find. Look for it on our Twitter at Seahawks Forum or Seahawks Podcast. Look for it on Seahawks on the Facebook, on Seahawks FanTable. Go to hawkscast.com. This is the Seahawks FanTable Podcast. I am Sam. They are Zeb and Ross, and we thank you for chiming in. Shout out to Birdfing for chiming in live, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.